welcome to our OUSD webinar on Clever and Seesaw. So before we get started, let's introduce our panelists who will be leading the training. I am, let me turn off my screen share for a second. I am Kenneth Chen, and I am the coordinator of instructional technology at OUSD, and I'll be talking about Clever today. And let me pass the baton to Sam Solomon. Sam?
Hey, sorry, I was just answering a question in the chat. Sometimes it helps with screen freeze if you turn off your video. I'm Sam Solomon. I'm a teacher librarian at the Calvin Simmons campus, which is Life Academy and United for Success Academy. So we have 2 sets of 6th to 8th graders and 1 set of 9th through 12th graders. And before that, I was an English teacher here in the district.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sam. I like hearing about I didn't know some of that about you, so it's great to hear a little bit about your background. So let me just start my screen share again. I really am I am a little bit of a Zoom newbie, so it takes me just a minute sometimes. But right now I got can you see my screen there, Sam?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. So this week, the theme of our webinars are just getting set up and getting started with distance learning. And a lot of teachers are just taking this week, and this is kind of an official teacher planning day, just to get ready and to get organized, learning about resources. And that's totally fine. Think about it, right? It's almost as if we're starting a new school year right now. And we're figuring out as teachers, when you start the new year, you don't just jump into learning right away. You take time to set up your systems. You teach systems to your students. You make connections with your students. And so that's what we're doing right now. And we're learning new methods. We're kind of like new teachers because we're learning these new online platforms and learning about distance learning in this context. Okay. So before we get into the training, just want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. First of all, this is a hybrid webinar. Originally, we had plans just to do a training on Clever, but there's not so much that you need to know about in Clever. There's a little bit, and you need to know what it is and some things about setting up a teacher page. But we realized that there are a lot of teachers who want to use Seesaw as an alternative to Google Classroom. And Seesaw is an organizing platform for content, similar to Google Classroom in that it's kind of like a learning management system. But we really wanted to make sure that we got a training in for that while we're getting things set up this week. So Sam is going to be talking about Seesaw a little bit later on. Okay, so we're going to split the training into 2 parts. So for part 1, we're going to talk about Clever. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about what Clever is, and then I'm going to do a demo of Clever with a screen share. I also want you to see just kind of like what a student sees when he or she's logging into Clever. And then we'll take a little bit of time to answer any questions about Clever. And in case you missed us talking about it before, we're trying to direct questions to the Q&A feature. And so we've got that turned on, and I can see that we've already got 8 responses in there right now. So direct your questions to that. That's where we're going to try using that and see how that works. Okay. So then after we talk about Clever, we're going to transition into part 2 and Seesaw with basically the same format. And Sam will be leading that part of the webinar and will be answering questions. And I'm really looking forward to that because I don't know very much about Seesaw. So I've got a lot to learn about that too. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk about Clever. So recently, the OEA sent out a survey asking members if they knew that Clever was a resource for teachers. And out of over 1,000 respondents, over 30% answered no. So there are a lot of teachers who didn't know that Clever even existed. And there are probably a lot more who don't know much about it. So let's talk about what Clever is. So what is Clever? Well, in a nutshell, Clever provides a portal to online learning programs and resources. So it's one centralized place or a hub where students and teachers can find online resources. And for many programs, it provides a single sign-on experience, also called SSO. And that just means that Clever saves usernames and passwords. So once users are signed into Clever, then there shouldn't be any further need to enter usernames and passwords. You just click on a link and that should open it up for you without having to do any additional sign-on. okay? And then an additional function of Clever is that for many programs, it automatically rosters programs. It syncs with Aries information about class rosters. So as a teacher, you don't need to manually enter your class rosters into those programs, which is really great and a big time saver. So another thing to know about Clever is that you can, as a teacher, create your own teacher page. You can customize the Clever experience for your students by creating your own page. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But speaking of the student experience, I did want to start with that. I would really like for us to take a look at how that looks so that you can understand what all of this Clever is for. So I'm actually going to log in as a student. So so just to let you know, this is actually a video that I'm showing. I'm not actually clicking through. The reason is that I want to blur out names to protect privacy, and I can't do that while I'm doing a live demo. So just want to let you know that this is a video, and I might need to pause the video or rewind it if I get a little ahead or behind. Okay, so this is the Clever login page. This is what a lot of students actually see when they first open up their Chromebooks. They can use a Clever badge login. They need to allow the camera to work there, but that works. If they don't have a Clever badge, though, they can log in with Google with their credentials. So just want to talk about this just for a second, the login credentials. You do have access to login credentials, okay? So I want to just show that. If you go to Illuminate and you go to this student emails and passwords, you just log into Illuminate and you click on that, then you will automatically, if you've got a classroom roster, you'll automatically get all of your student emails and passwords. And by email, I mean that's kind of like the username. Even if students don't actually have, elementary students, they don't have email, that's a username. Okay, so you do have access to that. So they click on login with Google for that, and then enter their student, enter their first name, last name at OUSD.org. That's the email. And then enter the password. That's 2 zeros followed by their 6-digit code, student ID. Okay, so this is what a student Clever page looks like. And just scrolling up and down, you can see that these are you've got all of the different icons here. And up here, let me just pause this just for a second. Up here, you've got the teacher. You actually have teacher pages that I was talking about. And this is, I'm Miss Cunningham over at Sankofa. I have been doing technology classes over there. She's a 3rd grade teacher. And so I've got, I'm a co-teacher in that class. So I do have a page that's set up. So that is the teacher page. So students, they just click on the icon for the teacher there, and that gives them access to the teacher page. But before we talk about those teacher pages, just want to continue to just talk about what students are doing here with Clever when they're in Clever. So here, if they want to add a favorite resource, they just click on that heart, and then that is just their own personal favorite that's up there. Okay. Once you click on that, let's try clicking on this Brain Pop, for example, because it does do single sign-on. And so this is actually getting this student signed in to his account right now. So you can't see, I blurred out the name up at the top, but he's actually signed in without entering any username, without any password, because once he was in Clever, he's ready for single sign-on. Okay, and then going back, this is just basically what this looks like, and there's that teacher page that we're talking about, and that is the next thing that I want to talk about. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about how you customize a teacher page. So when you're customizing a teacher page, when you to log into Clever, you're going to Clever and logging in with Google the same way. And you might already be logged in if you're logged in on your Chromebook, but you just put in your username, OUSD username and password. I have 2 accounts because I'm both a teacher and an admin, but this is my teacher page here. Okay, and this is kind of like what the teacher page looks like here. And this is set up, it's kind of giving you a prompt here that if you want to add favorite resources, you can do that. So you can do that in the same way as a student does. You just look at your resources, what you've got there. And if this is just for you, right? Okay, I just want to make this clear. This is your page. This is your own private page, and what students are looking at, it's a different thing. And so I'd like to make ST Math a favorite for myself. And I think maybe Brain Pop is something else that I'd like to do. So I'll click on that, click on the heart, and that goes up there. Just my own view here. These are my own personal favorites. And then I like Google Classroom a lot, so I'm going to put that up. And so I've got my favorite set up. Now I want to work on setting up my page. So I'm going to click on that. And I don't have anything in here right now. So just want to talk a little bit about this. And there's kind of a lot to this part here, but just want to kind of walk you through just a couple of things. So one of the things that I'd like to do is just add a link to something. Okay, if I've got a website that I want to add, for example, then I can add a personalized link for that. Okay, a website that I want my students to go to. I'm going to start by adding a category first, and I'm going to call that category links. You just click in there and just put in, I'm going to call this links here. And then I'm going to go back and add a link. So I'll click on add down at the bottom, click on link. And so you need to paste your link here. You need to have a URL. So National Geographic Kids is what I want to do. So I went to National Geographic Kids. I decided I wanted to do that. So I copied the link, pasted that in there. And I'm going to call that National Geographic Kids. Remember, if you've got any questions, put those in the Q&A. And then that'll go in the links category. And then I've got some options. I can use one of these pre-made icons here or upload something. I'm just going to use one of those pre-made ones for right now. I'll show you just a little bit more about that in a second. There are also apps that you can add to programs, and there's a library of clever apps that you can add, and this offers single sign-on and rostering also. So you can take a look at these and just see if there's something that you would like to add. There's quite a few of them, and we've vetted all of these as far as like for student privacy, and we're checking those out. I'd like to add typing.com, so I'm going to put that in there. And I also want to personalize my page here, so I'm going to change the header color here, and I want to show you actually how I'm going to upload my own image here. I've got an image of myself. It's like a Bitmoji of myself, so I'm going to click on that. In Chrome, you might have a different way you do that. You do that like with your Drive. You get something in your Drive, okay? So I'm going to save that, and then you can see there's like a little Bitmoji of myself sitting on some books there. Okay? So now I've got, I'm going to add another category here. I'd like to add Go Noodle here. There's something else that's in the library. I love Go Noodle, and that's a good thing for right now, right? Because that's something fun. It's kind of like they've got a lot of like songs, dances, exercise, stuff like that. So I'm going to install that. And you usually have just a couple steps you have to take. Just kind of follow the prompts and see how it goes. Some of them are different. But just give that a try. You might need to enter a password if you have a password, if you've already got something. It's just different for every app. Okay, so then I'm going to go back to what I've got here. And there's typing.com, and it appeared right there. I've got exercise. That's just basically how you do it. That is how you customize a page. If you've got questions, let me know. Put those in the question answer. I just titled that Mr. Chin's page. You can also, under where it says all the resources you need in one place, you can change the description. So you can really kind of customize that, and students, they just need to click onto the page when they open up your teacher page, when they open things up. Okay, so that's basically it. That's it for my presentation. So I'm going to stop the share here, and I want to check out the Q&A here and just just check these out here. Okay, so let's see. So seeing there's a question about Zoom. We were talking about a little bit about that before. While Sam's doing her presentation, I'll try to get to a couple of these here, but let me see if there are any about Clever that I can answer directly?
Yeah, there are a few about Clever.
Okay. So as far as like where can we see answers to the questions? Yeah, we are working on that. Just the answers to the questions in general. I think that's the general questions about the webinars, and so just trying to get those up as quickly as we can. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm slammed right now with work, and I've got a lot of like emails and support, and I do that teacher central email. So I got a lot that I'm working on, but just trying to get that going. Sam just recently joined the team, and so she's helping out with some of this work, and so I'm thrilled to have her helping with that. But we're working on that, and we're going to try to get up the answers as soon as we can. So thanks for asking that question, Pablo. Is it better for my scholars to log in through Clever when using Google Classroom, or to go directly to Google Classroom? I think you just kind of want to think about just like kind of like what you want your workflow to be. Maybe you want Google Classroom to be kind of like the main place that they go. And then if you assign work, say if you were to assign some work in one of the Clever apps, then they could go in through Clever. So Clever is really kind of like the hub, and Google Classroom is more for like assigning work, scheduling work. If you've got like things that they need to turn in, that's really what that is for. And Clever is something, it's different. It's just kind of like a hub. It's like for single sign-on. So really kind of two different things. Can kiddos take the SRI tests using Clever? I believe, I think that probably there are some teachers that know the answer to that. Let's see, someone raised their hand, I think. Let's see, did someone answer that question? I'm not sure about that. And that's Ramona, looks like that asked that question. I'm not sure how people are logging into, what is it? It's HMH that they're logging into. Does anybody know the answers to that question? If you've got an answer to that, maybe put that in the chat there. I'm not sure. 2 questions. How do we avoid sound reverberation on Zoom? I just say in general, just turn down the sounds. Turn down the sound as much as you can. There's usually pretty good noise cancellation, but yeah, turn down your speakers. Okay. I'm going to try to stick to the Clever questions here, and then we'll try to answer other questions. Does one need to launch an app in Clever for students to be able to use it from home? No. They do not need to. You don't need to. There is a launching feature, and that's really like it's kind of more like if you've got like a synchronous situation. Maybe you're all in the class. And you're going to say, okay, everybody get onto Clever right now, and I'm going to launch the app, and so it's just kind of logs them in all at once. But that's not really for right now. Is Google Hangouts having problems like Zoom is? Talk about that a little bit. There's definitely some just general video conferencing questions here.
There's a question about how Clever, or there's a few about Clever and Google Classroom, like what's the difference, or how are they similar?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I was kind of trying to I'm trying to think of a coherent response, like how you put that. So there really are, so they're different things. Okay. So it's kind of like what I was saying. Google Classroom is really kind of for organizing work, for organizing classwork, for assignments. Okay. If you were like trying to schedule assignments, if you're trying to give assignments to students, you can have students like they get the assignments there, like a Google Docs writing assignment, for example, and then students can turn in the work right there, and then you can look at it. That is not what Clever is at all. Clever is really, it's just kind of like a hub, like an organizer of like all of the different apps, and it allows for single sign-on so that students, they can just use Clever to, once they log into Clever, you're logging in one time, and then you can just click on any of these apps, like ST Math works great with Clever. BrainPop works great with Clever. Even Khan Academy, it works well with Clever. There are a whole bunch of them that work really well. And then there's the whole rostering thing, so that you can use Clever then, to, if you click on, for example, if you click on ST Math, or if you click on BrainPop, or while you're in Clever, then you just get your teacher console, and you can see your whole class. So it just kind of automates that whole sign-in process. It's just kind of like very intelligently understanding, okay, this is who's signing in right now, and it just routes the people to the right place.
And
Okay.
Google Classroom could be a link within Clever, right?
Google Classroom can be a link within Clever. Yes, it is actually on there. So the only thing that's different about it is that it's not, so the Google Classroom icon. It's not exactly a single sign-on link. So it's not like saving that. But the thing is, once they're logged into Clever, then they've already logged into Google. So then they're basically just a Google Classroom or Google Docs, any of those Google things. They click on that, and then that will just take them directly to the website. And they're already signed in, so they don't need to do any sign in. I'm not sure if that's clear because I've had to like kind of think through that a little bit. But that's what's happening with the Google Apps. Okay, let's see. Why do links work? That's a Google Classroom question. I'm right now. I'm just kind of looking for clever questions. Can you log into Seesaw through Clever? Yes, that's a really good question because we're talking about both Seesaw and Clever. So Seesaw, unless you have a paid school account, they don't do Clever integration. And even there's one situation right now where someone does have a paid account and they're not helping to set it up right now. I think they're just totally slammed right now and they're not like responding to their calls. But we have set up, so there is a Seesaw icon that is on that's on Clever for everybody. I think that it's on there for everybody, and it's not like a true Clever integration, but it's called what do you call it? It's a single sign-on link, or it's a single sign-on app. They call it. I think that's what they call it. So this is the way it works. So you go into Clever, and then they click on that link, and then it's going to say something like "sign in for the first time with Seesaw." So then they will put in their OUSD username. That's the email, the S_ first name, last name. And then they put in their password and then they click on that. And then from then on, they don't need to do it anymore. So it's going to be like true Clever integration once they go through that first step. And I actually someone was asking about that last week, I think. A teacher wanted some help with that. So I actually created a YouTube video that you can send to parents so that you can just kind of walk them through the steps so they can get that set up. And I think, Sam, that we've got that on the Seesaw page in Teacher Central. Didn't we put that on there?
About how to log in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's on there. So you can look for that and then you can share the link with parents for that. Okay, so that's a really good question for today. Let's see. Inclusion specialist who helps students wants to be able to see. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I saw a few people asking about adding Flipgrid to Clever.
Yeah, Flipgrid's on there, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll check on that, but I'm pretty sure that I added that and it's under OUSD favorites.
Okay. And also YouTube was another, adding their own YouTube channel or a YouTube channel. Yeah, you can
add that's a really good one to add, like adding your own YouTube channel. Like if you've got your own YouTube channel, that's a great one to add for a teacher page or maybe somebody else's YouTube channel. I've seen teachers do that. So that's really good. So I'm really interested in this question about, so our inclusion specialist who helps with students with IEPs wants to be able to see what her inclusion students see in Clever. Is this possible? So it's not, except in the case-by-case basis, you wouldn't be able to see what they see, but it's the same thing for any student in the school with the exception of those teacher pages. So so this is a really good question, because if you don't have a roster, and there's some of you that actually maybe you don't have a Clever account because maybe you're a resource teacher or maybe you're a prep teacher and you might not actually be set up for Clever right now. And that's something that I can help you with. If you email me, then I can help you get a login. If you got questions about like Clever login, Clever account, if you're having a problem with that, I'm the person. That's like my dedicated job. I do that all year. So just let me know about that. Okay. So that's a really good question. Are the programs on Clever appropriate for PK, TK student, or is Clever more geared toward older students? It just depends. There are some things that are really better for older students and there's some things that are really good for younger kids. Brain Pop is a really good one. We're having a webinar on that tomorrow. That's a really good one for young students. What's an alternative when students' camera isn't working? It's a different kind of question. Do students have to log in every time they go to Clever, or will it be saved? Will they be automatically logged in after the first time? Can they save their login so it can be automatic after the first time? So the answer to that is no. They do need to log in every time. That is just a security thing, so that you might have noticed that, like, more often these days you have to enter your own Google credentials, your own OUSD credentials. They've been just like a little bit tighter with that. So Clever badges are an option. That's one thing that that I wanted to let you know, that you can send Clever badges, and so I'm going to put in some instructions on the Clever page. We actually don't have a Clever page set up right at the moment on Teacher Central, but I want to put some instructions for that. But that is something that you can do once you log in as a teacher. Over on the left, you can see that there's an option for downloading your badges, and then you can download a badge, or you can send a badge to a particular student. But otherwise, yes, they do need to put that in. But it's a good thing it's actually a good thing even for the younger kids to learn to do. And I know there are some kindergarten teachers and first grade teachers that are having their kids actually learn to enter their logins, and they're going to have to do it at some point. And so this is actually a great time for them to just learn how to do that and get automatic. And usually they just remember it. After a while, kids have good memories in general, and they can just start getting logged in. Okay. How do you add apps like MobyMax, No Red Ink? That would be something that you can do with the links on your teacher page. Helpful to know which are most appropriate for elementary versus secondary. So that's a good thing to check Teacher Central about, because we're trying to put information about that. You can also just click on them and try to find out. Just do a little bit of digging and finding out. Will Seesaw get added as single sign-on to Clever? So I think I addressed that question before. The answer is no, but there is a kind of like an app they just need to sign in once. Elementary specialists don't have any students populated to Clever. Email me if that's your situation, and it can try to help you out. Have many students with difficulty logging onto Clever. It's not working for some reason. Email me. What's the value of Clever for teachers who are working in non-classroom roles with no rosters? I can set you up as a custom teacher if that would really be useful to you. I can set you up so that you have a custom teacher with a roster. I can create a custom section or add you as a co-teacher. There are different options. How do you make the teacher page? We went over that, so check the recording later on if you missed that.
And Kalish, if people want to be added as like a custom teacher, they should email you?
Yes. If they want to be added as a custom teacher, just email me. Let me know what your situation is. And Sam and I, we also have office hours. Just want to put that out there. We might have that. You might have seen that on Teacher Central. But if you look at Teacher Central, right on the front page, there's something that says if you need support, book some time with us. So you just click on that, and then you can find a time that works for you. So it's super easy. And Sam and I kind of have like different areas that we tend to help with. So just click on both of our names just to find out, and we can do 15-minute Google Hangout or Zoom meeting with you. Okay. Does Clever allow for SSO into Pearson Realize? Yes, it does. We have that set up. I'm a resource teacher, not able to access Clever. Email me. Copy links. Do you highlight? Yeah, you copy to copy links, you just select the link up in the address bar when you're logged into a website that you like, copy that, and then paste that. Do prep teachers have a Clever page? That's the same question. You can email me if you don't have an actual roster. And would you use Clever? So some of these I want to give Sam adequate time. So I'll take a look at these questions here and try to work on some of these. Some of these are kind of duplicate questions or questions that we answered before. But I'll work through those, and just want to make sure that we have enough time for Seesaw, because that's really important. Okay. So thanks everybody, and going to hand it off to Sam now.
All right. Hello, I'm going to share my screen. And One thing I did want to do first is actually show you on Teacher Central where you can access office hours, if that's useful to you. So this is just the Teacher Central like front page, teachercentral.ousd.org. And it's right here. Make an appointment with Kelsey Chin or Sam Solomon for personal help with distance learning. And if you click on my name, the internet's totally working. Don't worry. It takes you here. You can see where you can sign up. So if you wanted to sign up for Monday, you could just click a slot and it'll appear on my calendar. I put here some things that I feel competent to help you with, but I really love reading helpful content. That is not sarcasm. And I am happy to be learning a lot about what's happening. And the same thing will happen if you click on Keleth's name as well. So then I'm actually going to talk about Seesaw like I'm supposed to now. And here it goes. So first of all, these slides are available at tinyurl.com/OUSD Seesaw if you want to see them yourself. I put that web address on each and every single slide, so you do not have to panic if you are still typing it when I go to the next slide. That web address, tinyurl.com/OUSD Seesaw, is all over this presentation. So Seesaw is a place that you can host distance learning for your class. Just like Google Classroom, we talk about it as a learning management system, right? It's just a platform on which you would host your class, right? Different than Flipgrid or different than Edpuzzle, right? Which might hold different pieces of your class, but this is sort of like where your class would be housed. I really want to shout out Seesaw's help content because it's really good. We're all learning new things and you're certainly not alone. We have support about Seesaw and Teacher Central. You can certainly book office hours with me to talk about Seesaw, but their help center is really, really excellent, really, really searchable. And then within the app, they have this thing called Seesaw Assistant, and it's a robot, but it's a really smart chatbot that gives you back instructions that include screenshots, and it's incredibly useful, and I've used it many times in the creation of this slideshow for you. So just briefly talking about the difference between Seesaw and Google Classroom, both have free options. Google Classroom, they typically say grades 2 through 12. I think I've heard people are using it or have used it with even younger kids. That's okay. That's cool. Kids are pretty amazing like that. But Seesaw recommends even pre-K to 12. So actual use probably skews more into that like pre-K to second or third grade. But they say pre-K to 12. And I think that I could envision certainly using it with my middle school students. Both of them allow teachers to assign work to students. Both of them allow teachers to share information with families. But I think that the ways that they do that are two really important things to talk about. So the way that Seesaw asks students to interact with activities is really different than Google Classroom. And the way that Seesaw allows families to access students' information is really different. So on Seesaw, I'm going to talk about both a little bit more later and more in depth, but those are, I would say, like the two major differences. Seesaw features a library of pre-created activities, which Google Classroom does not. So when you log into Seesaw, you can click the green plus button and you can select assign activity. And then if you click on community, it'll take you to this whole library of pre-created activities, which are searchable by grade and by subject. I saw in the question, somebody asked if we could talk about Spanish. They do have it here as a filter. It looked to me like they were pretty basic, but you can also upload your own activities in Spanish as well. Again, our Seesaw support content on Teacher Central covers this really in depth. If you choose a pre-created activity to share with your class, you can also edit them. So you do not have to assign them as is. You can change them up to better fit your students' needs. So one of the really important differences between Seesaw and Google Classroom is how students interact with activities. And this is just a screenshot of a Seesaw activity that you might use. And one thing I want to name is that instructions can be recorded by the teacher. So in Seesaw, you can offer voice instructions. You can write written instructions and then audio record yourself reading them to your class, which I think is great for younger kids, but also I've worked in middle school a really long time, and I think it's probably great for middle schoolers too. How students can interact with activities beyond that, right? They can interact by typing in text, right? So they could type the word mug here, or they could type the word cut here. They can interact with voice recordings, so they can click on that microphone and actually like voice respond to whatever question you've asked or whatever activity you've assigned. They can interact with a photo. So in my Seesaw classroom, which I'll share with you in just a second, I have an activity posted up where students hold up a book and take a picture of a page and then voice record themselves reading that page out loud in their best storyteller voice. If you click on that ... they can draw shapes and change backgrounds. And then they can also add written or voice captions, and that's a really awesome opportunity to ask students to like reflect or get metacognitive about what they've done in that assignment. In this activity, it's also demonstrating you can use Seesaw with like as a card sort. So you can, this is a screenshot, but in the real Seesaw, you can click and drag these cards into the right place where they belong as part of the activity. And then they're really into the green circle, check, green circle, plus. That's how you submit the green circle. It's also really easy to create your own activities in Seesaw. So again, you click that green plus button, you click assign activity, and this would be like if you wanted to create it completely from scratch. You can voice record your directions, you can upload. So if you already have like a really great multiplication skills worksheet that you love in your Google Drive or on your computer, you can upload the file and decide how you want students to interact with it, whether it's by typing in text or using the draw tool or another way. So this is what the kind of blank create an activity page looks like. And there's the space for you to add voice instructions or add an example. If you want, you don't have to. This is one way you can practice joining a Seesaw class, and you can see some of the activities I've assigned in my class. So you are invited but not obligated to join my class as a student. You can see it uses a join code. And these are the real Seesaw directions that they give, that you would give to students. They give the option to email these. So you open the Seesaw class, or they give you the website right here. Go to app.seesaw.me, choose I'm a student. Here is your join code, and then you sign in with your Google account. And I think that that is like a fairly similar protocol to stuff that maybe lots of us are comfortable with, like Google Classroom or Newsela, and that's how you do it. I'm gonna leave this slide, but again, you can see this slide and all of my other slides at tinyurl.com/OUSD Seesaw. That link is on every page, so don't feel stressed if you missed it. When students complete assignments in Seesaw, their work is organized into their journal. They say journal, but I actually think of it more like a portfolio because my journal in my class has all of my completed activities in it. And one of the ways that Seesaw is really different than Google Classroom is that it allows families, once they've logged in, to look at their students' journal. And not only can they see their students' actual work, but they can comment on it with a text comment or a voice comment, which is a really nice opportunity to invite families into your classroom a little bit more and into the work you're doing a little bit more with students. How do you access Seesaw? So Seesaw uses the settings right here. It's circled. You go to class settings and you pick student sign-in mode. You can change your student sign-in mode anytime. So if I set it up with a Google Classroom or with a link, with a join code, I can always change that to another option if I find that that's not working for my student. There's a few different ways to do this. So first you can click add students, and then it will ask you if you want students to use their email. So if you say no, it'll generate a QR code, which may or may not be the best way to do it right now as we're remote. But if you say yes, it'll do what I just showed you, which it'll generate a join code. So I said, yes, I want people to use with email, and I got a join code. Or I could have said, no, I don't want to use students' emails. My students are too small for that. Here's a QR code. And you can screenshot that QR code and send it out to families, maybe via talking points. So there's two options on how to join. And again, you can change them anytime. So if you find it's not working, you can try another way. How do you add families to Seesaw? On that Seesaw main page, you can click plus families, and then you invite them with their email or mobile number. If that doesn't work for your families, you can also share an invite link that you could text out via talking points if you wanted to. Or you can print invites and send them snail mail, because getting mail is really fun. You can access Seesaw, and your students and families can access Seesaw from anywhere. There are 2 different apps. So you can, of course, just use the web browser to access Seesaw, but there are also 2 apps, and you can see Seesaw. This is a link, by the way. If you're looking at the slides, you can click on either of these and there are links. So your students are going to use Seesaw Class, and you are going to use Seesaw Class, and that allows them to interact with your class as a student or as the teacher. From what I hear, the Seesaw app works really well on Android. It worked just fine on my iPhone. I found it like fairly intuitive. I don't have an iPad, so I couldn't check. And then this is the app for families. So the Seesaw for Families app is a little bit different because it only allows families to see their own students' journal. If you want to watch this video about Seesaw for Families, you definitely can. It's short, it's informative. You could even share that video with families if you wanted to. And again, I just want to name how great Seesaw's Help content is. It's really, really good. We also have some Seesaw Help content on Teacher Central that I think might be useful to you. And now I will stop screen sharing and take a look at some questions. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to start at the bottom. Do first grade students need to have access to their email account? So no students need access to their email account to use Seesaw if you use the QR code. And if that option, so they can use the QR code to join. They don't have to use their email. If students go in with Clever, do they need an email or QR code? Khalif, do you know the answer to that?
If students, I'm sorry, what was the question?
If students go into Seesaw with Clever, do they need to sign in with an email or QR code? Sorry, I'm not super familiar with Clever.
Sign in with, I'm not sure about the question, if they mean sign in with Clever or sign in with.
Yeah, I think they're saying if students have signed in to Seesaw with Clever, which they can't, right? Or can they?
They can. Yeah, they can sign in to Seesaw without Clever. Yeah, they can just sign in outside of Clever.
Okay, so we're not having students sign in to Seesaw with Clever.
Well, they can. So that's the thing that I was talking about, is that because some teachers, they want to just kind of have everybody go through Clever, but there's Clever. You can basically get into any program in Clever outside of Clever. It's just that it makes it more convenient for in some cases, to get in through Clever.
Cool. Eileen, I'm really sorry about that confusion around that question. Somebody said, is the family app free or do they have to pay? It's free. It's all free. We are prioritizing freeness of apps. It's so important to keep it accessible. Can we upload a video on Seesaw? There's a ton. I recommend highly both Seesaw's Help content, which includes tons of screenshots, and there's lots of links in the slides that I've shared, but also on Teacher Central, we have a bunch of Seesaw Help content as well. An option to add students by syncing to my Google Classroom. Will this automatically add students? No, it's so annoying. So this person is asking if they sync Seesaw to their Google Classroom, as students add into their Google Classroom, will it automatically update? No, you have to keep resyncing it. It's super annoying. I actually wrote Edpuzzle an email about that this week. Will students trying to access Seesaw through Safari browser on the iPhone be unable to get it? I don't know. I actually haven't tried to access it through the browser on my phone, but I'll try during whatever time we have left, and I'll try to get back to you about that. But I think it will work because it works on Safari on my computer. Thank you, Mr. Chin, for the answer about Pearson app. That's awesome. Good job. Seesaw wants to import students from Google Classroom, but my classroom doesn't have any. If you don't have any students in your Google Classroom, then don't bother importing them from there. I would just go with either generating a join code and having your students just join Seesaw that way, or use the QR code, unless you really want students in your Google Classroom. But I don't think it's necessarily required. You don't need one to use the other. How do we set up calendars like that? Maybe it's about the Calendly. It's an app. Kelly told me about it. It's called Calendly. And that's how we got those appointment slots. Yeah. And it's really easy to use. Is GimKit and others on Clever? Oh, this is Clever. Most of these also look like Clever questions now. Automatically. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Now I'm looking in the chat. What have I missed? Oh, how do you import students from Seesaw to Google Classroom? Somebody said I missed their questions, but I don't know what. Could you just say what your question was? Importing students from Google Classroom to Seesaw. I will find the help content for that right now. Okay. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Khalif, for now.
Okay. So, well, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. So if anyone wanted about 8 or 9 minutes in your schedule, you're planning on sticking around till 12. So we've got like really good news for you. It looks like we're ending a little bit early. We are going to, we're recording this. And so we've got the chat recorded even when we close this, and we've got our Q&A. Not sure yet, actually, like what happens when you close that, but I think we've answered most of the questions. A lot of them, they're falling into the same category.
Yeah, one person asked what functions are better in Seesaw versus Google Classrooms. And I think it's really more about the modalities in which you are asking kids to interact with your assignments, right? In Seesaw, you can use the draw tool, you can use the voice record, you can use all those things, and they're really easy embedded for kids. Versus Google Classroom, which I think tends to be more like text-based kind of work.
Yeah. And it's just, it's part of it is just kind of like, do you prefer just the style, the look of Seesaw? I mean, I think it's, it's more visual. It's a little bit more interesting. Google Classroom's kind of dry, and it's just all like very text-based. Also, Google Classroom, you don't have an option like within Google Classroom to look for content. Whereas in Seesaw, if you really are thinking like, I really just would like to work with what other people have created, then Seesaw might be a better option for you.
Yeah, this person also asked, can students view each other's journals in Seesaw and make comments? That's an option that you as a teacher can enable or disable. So that is your choice and what you feel most comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, loving all the questions. I like Q&A. What about you, Sam? I'm liking it. The only thing is I don't see like how you can see if the question was answered. Are you seeing that?
In my Q&A box, there's open, answered, and dismissed.
Oh, I see.
And so it looks like there's typed, there's questions that we've typed answers to. I think we've both been hustling to do that. Yes. And then there's still 90 open questions.
All right. So we're going to see what happens when we stop this session, and hopefully we'll be able to keep answering those questions. A lot of them they are kind of like duplicate questions, but we'll see if we can get all of these. We're trying to get all of the information, compiled questions about programs. Seesaw is a really important one. Clever is very important. So we're going to be updating the Teacher Central and the pages. I'll just do just like a really quick screen share so that I can just show you that really quickly in case you haven't been looking at that. So just going to go to, this is let me just go to Teacher Central. And so the address is teachercentral.ousd.org. So just want to go there really quickly. And then we just added a new page for talking points. So distance learning, we've got, if you just go to the distance learning page here. So this has all of the upcoming webinars. This has the trainings. And then these are the resources down here. Tried to put the kind of like the big organizers, Google Classroom, Seesaw, and Clever up at the top. I've not made a Clever page yet, but I'm going to be working on that later today. And then we've got the resources that are down here. So if you click on really any of these things here, then that will take you to, Sam's done a great job with this, with the Seesaw page here. And it's got kind of organized, so you can just click on it, any of these. How do I invite families? Will take you to information. And there is that. I'm pretty sure we've got that. This YouTube video. This is a link to a YouTube video. So how to set up student Seesaw login. I think that's a video that I made that explains the Clever page. So if you're interested in that, take a look at that, and you can also share that with parents. So that can help them kind of walk through that. Okay. Anything else that you want to add, Sam?
Just that I am still hustling to answer these questions. in the Q&A. And I saw a lot of people ask about the Q&A questions and where they can see them from previous webinars.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to add those. I know they're in a doc. I know I've typed lots of answers in those docs. Where are they now?
Okay.
So I guess they're coming up probably onto Teacher Central, right?
All right. Yeah. And I'm, every now and then I'm seeing that people are raising their hands, and I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't actually know what you do. Like, how you get to that hand? See, Lisa's got her hand raised. How do you do that? How do you actually find that? I don't know that in Zoom. That's something that we have to look up. We're all learning as we go along, guys. So we're trying to do the best that we can, but I'm going to do some, because when I click on someone's got their hand raised, I don't actually see what that does there, but we're going to look into that. But obviously we're winding down here. So I think what maybe Sam we can stick around here in case anybody wants to just ask more questions, but the presentation part is done. We're basically done here. So thank you for joining today. Don't want to make you stick around if you've got other things to do. And I know everybody pretty much does. So you've got kids to take care of. So have a really good day. We're going to be here for another 5 minutes or so, Sam and I, answering questions. And thank you for joining today.
Thank you guys so much.
So